freedom fighters coming back at you with another one. Well, thinking back again on that Buddy Brown video, another point I wanted to make. It's a topic I've been thinking about for a while, but it's just a few bad apples. Well, one of the lyrics, one of the lines in his song there was, "A few bad apples don't represent all, and I believe most are good." And I just wanted to expand on that. But yeah, I said in that video that I originally did that, they're not all psychopathic criminals, they're not all killers, but they are all complicit in the system. And, I've told people this plenty of times, when you're debating with people, you're talking to friends who maybe don't believe the same way you do, but, you show them a video of them, whatever, following unconstitutional orders or doing something, and they just look dumbfounded. And then they'll come to the consensus, well, yeah, that guy's bad, he's a bad cop. But still, it's just a bad apple, right? It doesn't represent them all. They're not, all the same. And it's what I always hear. But, someone did a great video one time. I can't remember exactly which one it was. But he was talking about the treason going on in the White House. And he said, I blame everybody there, the whole thing. And the panel, but it was like one of those group chat videos. I can't remember if it was on Twitter Spaces or what it was. But yeah, it was like a panel of people. And they were like, well, no, it's not everyone. And he's like, yeah, it's everyone. It's, from the top down, the cabinet members, the secretaries, answering the phones, the paper shredders, the gardeners, the maid, the trash man, every single one. And the guy was like, well, how so? How are you going to blame them for all this stuff going on? And it's basically like, they're keeping the thing afloat. And that's what I said. Like, they are complicit in keeping the system afloat. And if the garbage man didn't come up and pick up the trash that day, there would just be trash piling up outside of the White House. If the secretaries weren't shredding the papers and there was just documents piling up everywhere, it'd be a madhouse. If the maid wasn't cleaning stuff and, commander shit was all over the floor, people would be like, I don't want to work here, and this is just a bad environment. There's stuff, trash piled up everywhere. There's crap on the floor. And you can't get stuff done. It would be a madhouse. And that's what they're doing. They're allowing the system to run. They are complicit in it. And that's ultimately what it came down to with, with the cops. What's going on, your modern day militarized policing system following unconstitutional laws and upholding the tyranny. And when you show people these cops getting false warrants and, all this stuff following unconstitutional orders, and sometimes even killing people, what happens? The department, crickets. Everyone's silence. And then there's an internal investigation where all of a sudden they all, find that there was no wrongdoing. Well, isn't that surprising? But yeah, and then I talked to people before about, it's only a few bad apples, yet you have these channels out here. I watch like Lackluster and James Freeman, Here's the Deal, Cop Audit. A lot of these different channels, Never Get Busted is a new one I recently found. There's a lot of them out there. I'm probably forgetting, some of these channels. And let me know which ones you guys watch or what you're seeing. But I'm like, if it was just a few bad apples, these channels wouldn't be able to exist. They're covering cop corruption and, whatever these channels, the First Amendment audits, Second Amendment audits, they're all over the place. The Florida Fisherman is another great one, who's a 2A auditor. I recently started watching Trey Vietnam, who's a 2A auditor, and they just go out and live their life and express their rights and exercise their rights and their freedoms, and there's always a cop there to try to stop it, and they always want to follow the unconstitutional orders that whatever their mayors, their governors, the states have put forward, rather than siding with the citizens in the Constitution. And again, if it was just a few bad apples, you wouldn't be. I mean, these people put out like a video a day, and sometimes multiple videos a day. I know Here's the Deal will sometimes come on live, so will James Freeman, and cover stuff. Um, if it was just, I mean, one a day is still 365, and that's just on one channel. I mean, sometimes they do cover the same thing. But yeah, I mean, if it was just one, bad apple, and people will say, well, that's 300 something cops out of, thousands, hundreds of thousands. So it still remotes to just, that's like 1%. But, when you count in year after year of these videos and the constant things you've seen, it's like, it's not just a few bad apples. And then again, you might say, oh, it's the, maybe 5% are corrupt, 10%, whatever number you come up to. And it's like, well, then where are all the good cops at? Why aren't they standing up and exposing these people as well? And, when they end up doing these stuffs, getting false warrants or depriving people of their civil liberties, and their partner just sits by and allows it, the police department sit by and allows it, and nobody speaks up. They all are complicit in allowing the system to continue. So yeah, I've talked to people before, and Freedom Inc. always says, no one's willing to admit that they're the bad guy or that their family member's the bad guy. Have you ever talked to anyone and they're like, oh yeah, my brother's a cop. Yeah, my dad's a cop, or this guy's a cop. And they're like, oh yeah, he's a bad one. You never hear that. It's always, oh, well, yeah, maybe I understand what you're talking about. But again, it's just a few bad apples. And no, my uncle or whatever is a great cop. And, my son is a cop, and he goes by the Constitution, and he doesn't do any of that stuff you're talking about. I'm like, sure he does. What, are you on patrol with him? Do you see all this stuff? I can guarantee you he deprives people of their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I guarantee you he commits civil liberty violations and violates people's civil rights. I mean, they uphold this whole system. The illegitimate Federal Reserve, everything that we are under, the tyrannical boot, they are the ones upholding it. I saw a great post the other day from Wall Street Apes, where I can't remember exactly what it was about, but Jim Jordan was saying something, and he just flat out told him, he was just like, shut the hell up. Like, you just voted for the bipartisan bill or whatever that came to the table, and you funded the government, and you funded all this stuff. So don't go now talking like you're against it and calling people out. Man, it's all bull. And we've covered the uniparty, bullshit over and over. But yeah, that's what they do. They get on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. They get on to the news stations to give their 5 little-minute sermons and get their 15 minutes of fame and their little YouTube clips of them shouting down libs or, owning the libs. But then somehow they all figure out when it comes time to fund the government, they all come together for bipartisanship, and they somehow make it work, and they sign those bills. And then they go to lunch together, and they invite each other over for house parties. and they're all friendly. The only time they get unfriendly is when they're on TV and it's their time to shout at each other to make you think they're working real hard and they're against each other. No, it's all you're being played. None of these people think like you and I. They don't believe like we believe. They don't detest these people like we do. And they don't understand what needs to be done. And frankly, they none of these people have the balls to actually take this country back. And that's not what they're running on. That's not their platform. Like I said before, and I think my video, can't remember if it was the John Mark video, I think it was called The Winning Right or something like that. And I said, man, all these, right wing, whatever you want to call them, the Republicans or whatnot, they're not even for freedom. They're just grifters at this point, riding the sinking ship all the way to the bottom. And they're like, hey, I might as well get mine, until it's time to jump off the sinking ship. And yeah, I wonder, like, do these people have a plan? Like, I mean, I know a lot of these rich elites do have plans. They're just going to take plane rides to New Zealand is the hot spot that they think they're going to ride off the shit storm that's coming, or they probably got bunkers and, all this stuff in place for, yeah, when it finally does collapse, they're just going to jump ship. But you and I are going to be left to fend for ourselves. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. And, that's pretty much it, man. And that's the message. We are on our own. No one's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.